We are now almost live on YouTube. And we're live. All right. We are now, there we go. Heard myself twice. There we go. All right. So, Pat and Catherine, I turn all ushering over to the two of you. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Everybody see, yes. Good morning. We got a lot of stragglers this morning, so I'll just ask Pat and Catherine, or Pat to keep people coming in, and Catherine make sure they're muted. I am the Reverend Dr. Leonisa Artizone, here the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Catskills in beautiful Kingston, technically Ulster Park. What are we? Ulster, New York? Ulster Park? I don't know. Kingston. I want to thank you all for joining us. I know our online worship service time has expanded even beyond what we had all thought a year or so ago. But here we are, spending every Sunday together, and I appreciate you all being here. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. If you are visiting us today, please type your email address into the chat box so we can be sure to keep you posted on all things UU Catskills. Just so you know you're in the right place, here you go. Okay. Unitarian Universalism, most of us know, is a unique liberal faith guided by 7 principles and 6 sources. I encourage you all to keep our UU Catskills website in your bookmarks so that you can stay on top of everything that is happening. And as a reminder, we are a group that cares deeply about our larger, greater community. We do this by affirming that Black Lives Matter, by being active voices for climate justice and environmental justice, for being active voices in the support of our immigrant siblings, as well as in the support and protecting the rights of our LGBTQ family. We have some things coming up this week. Oh, I always forget that I put this slide in here too to remind you how you can reach all the folks who are currently in leadership at UU Catskills. And I was supposed to change this one slide, and I will do it in the weekly update. We also, if people are interested in membership, how to become members or how to be part of membership, you can send those queries to the administrator and they will get to Mary and other members of that committee. This week, we have our ongoing grief support group at 7 p.m. Tuesday, I believe, is our women's circle. Thursday is bedtime story. And Friday is Kundalini yoga at 9:30 in the morning. And I wanted to point out a little self-promo here. Some of you are curious about my work in peace education, and I will be giving a talk, it's really a dialogue with my colleague Dale. Dale was actually my doctoral advisor 21 years ago, and he teaches at the University of Toledo in Ohio. And he and I are having a conversation about peace education at Vassar on Thursday night. So if you're interested, I'll be sure to add that to the updates or find another way. You can always send me a note and I'll send you the registration link for that. Okay, so actually, stop my share for a moment. Just want to get a sense of who is here. Yes, okay, good. Like I say every Sunday, I hope that today and every day you will be inspired by the words of James Vila Blake, penned in 1894. Love is the spirit of this faith, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I welcome you all into this time apart from time. And we begin our worship service with some music by our very own Catherine Catabiani, Pavan by Morton Gould. Well, that was a joyful number. Thank you, Catherine. And I loved, Catherine said she deliberately wanted the video to highlight the fun little graphic on the cover of the music, which I love things like that. So thank you for that. I invite everyone to find their chalice, and we will. Okay, so it looks like we're having some trouble with hearing. Some people say they cannot hear. My volume is turned up. I'm hearing that other people can hear. I'm just going to take a pause and move to gallery for a moment. And if you can hear me, can you put a thumbs up? Okay, so the folks who can hear, the easiest troubleshooting thing is to make sure nothing is plugged into any of the jacks on your computer. That is the word I am looking for, computer. And make sure your sound isn't being run in any other program right now. Those are the two easiest things. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's light our chalice. I'll put the chalice lighting on the screen.
We light this chalice in grateful, loving community.
Even in the darkest of times,
its flame light path
to courage, justice, and hope.
Our opening words this morning come from Archbishop Desmond Tutu. A person is a person through other persons. None of us comes into the world fully formed. We would not know how to think or walk or speak or behave as human beings unless we learned it from other human beings. We need other human beings in order to be human. I am because other people are. And in that spirit of connection, let us worship together. Please join me in our unison affirmation. The words are on the screen. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. To get us awake and connected, we will sing our first song of the day, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being it all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. One of the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the whole sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Wake not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling for all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
I like that hymn. I transition us into our Not for Children Only. Just this past Thursday night at story time, we read a story Oh, thank you, Amel, for telling us that. I don't know if everybody could see the chat, but Amel likes him also. We read a story that was written and illustrated by Christian Robinson, and one of his prime collaborators is this fella called Matt de la Pena. And I attended a little chat they gave online. The wonderfulness of all things being on Zoom means you get to zoom in to hear people who do interesting things talk about why they do interesting things so we can be inspired and learn from each other. So Matt de la Pena and Christian Robinson wrote this book that just came out last year called Milo Imagines the World. What begins as a slow, distant glow grows and grows into a tired train that clatters down the tracks. A cool rush of wind quiets into a screech of steel, and when the doors slide open, Milo slips aboard. The train bucks back into motion, and he and his sister squeeze onto bench seats. The whiskered man beside Milo has a face of concentration. A businessman has a blank, lonely face. The wedding-dressed woman near the far door has a face made out of light, while the dog peeking out of her handbag has no face at all, just a long, lolling tongue. These monthly Sunday subway rides are never ending, and as usual, Milo is a shook-up soda. Excitement stacked on top of worry, on top of confusion, on top of love. To keep himself from bursting, he studies the faces around him and makes pictures of their lives. At a downtown local stop, the whiskered man folds up his crossword and hurries off the train. Milo imagines him trudging through brown mounds of slush. It's a 5-flight climb to his cluttered apartment where he's greeted by mewling cats and burrowing rats. Parakeets tweet songs of longing as the man sips tepid soup hunched over a game of solitaire. Late that night, the door to the parakeet cage mysteriously falls open, and the cats gather on the cold sill to watch the birds fly free above the city. I love Milo's imagination. That's me. Milo tugs his sister's sleeve and holds up his picture. But even when she turns to look, he can tell she doesn't see. She's a shook-up soda, too. A boy in a suit boards the train with his dad. His hair is a perfect part, and there's not a single scuff on his bright white Nikes. Milo imagines the clip-clop of the horse-drawn carriage that will carry him to his castle. Imagines the clink, clink, clink of the guards slowly lowering the drawbridge. Across the human-made moat, the boy is met by a butler, 2 maids, and a gourmet chef offering crust-free sandwich squares. Milo flips to a fresh page at a bustling Midtown stop. When the wedding-dressed woman strides off the train, a band of street performers launches into "Here Comes the Bride," and everyone on the platform stops and cheers. Milo imagines the grand cathedral ceremony where the couple will be pronounced husband and wife. Imagines the groom whisking his new bride to an awaiting hot air balloon where the pilot loads them in with blankets and blasts the heat. And up, up they go, hand in hand, beyond the concrete walls of the city, into the infinite blue. Milo holds up this picture too, but his sister shoos him away. "Can't you see I'm playing my game?" He watches her thumbs bang around her smudged screen, then turns back to the boy in the suit. They lock eyes for a few long seconds, and suddenly it feels like the walls are closing in around Milo. The spell is broken when a crew of breakers bounds onto the train, announcing, "Y'all ready for a show?" Several curious faces look up as the beat drops, and now the girls are walking up walls. They're whirling around poles, they're backflipping over shopping bags. When the train pulls into the next stop, they collect a few dollars and scramble for another car. Milo imagines them going from train to train, doing their act as everyone watches. But even after the performances are over, faces still follow their every move when they walk down the electronics aisle at the department store. When they cross into the fancy neighborhood, Milo doesn't really like this picture, so he puts away his pad and turns to his reflection in the window. What do people imagine about his face? Can they see him reciting his volcano poem to the class? Can they hear his mom's soothing voice reading him a bedtime book over the phone? Can they smell the chile colorado bubbling in a pot in his auntie's apartment near the cemetery? Butterflies flood Milo's stomach when it's finally their stop. He follows his sister onto the cold station platform and up the stairs. Above ground, he's surprised to see the boy in the suit a few paces ahead. He's even more surprised when the boy joins the long line to pass through the metal detector. Milo's sister suddenly bends to give him a hug. "I didn't mean to snap at you," she says. She takes his hand, adding, "You have your picture ready?" He nods, feeling the warmth of her fingers. As they slowly shuffle forward, Milo studies the boy in the suit, his dad rubbing his thin shoulders. And a thought occurs to him. Maybe you can't really know anyone just by looking at their face. Milo tries to reimagine all the pictures he made on the train. Maybe he could have done it like this instead. Or this. Or this. Milo's chest fills with excitement when he spots his mom through the crowd. His sister rushes to give her a hug before pulling Milo in too. And it's in this tight tangle of familiar arms that he feels most alive. When they separate, Milo flips through his pad until he finds the right picture. "I made this for you," he says, holding it up, and he watches for the smile he hopes will spread across his mom's face. There are so many reasons why I love that story, but I especially love it as it coincides with our theme today about stories that are inspiring, and how we can't really know one another until we share our stories. And I love Milo's imagination and his willingness to imagine things differently than he initially did. I hope everyone liked that story as well. So with Milo's imagination and all those wonderful images of what we imagine versus what could be real, what we know and what we don't know, I'd invite us all into a time for some contemplation. And doing things a little differently today, I'd like to provide us with some words to guide us, and then we'll go silent, and then I'll ring the bell. But our words that I found that felt so right come from the late and great, wonderful Reverend Hope Johnson. She writes this: "We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, and being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one. I encourage you to keep those words, some of those ideas, especially the we are one, creating the beloved community in your heart as we travel together today and beyond. We're transitioning into our offering, which this month we are sharing with NAMI. And the information on how to give is on the screen. And if anyone needs it more accessibly, maybe Karma, you could throw it into the chat if you'd like. That might help us. And our offertory music comes from one of our grand storytellers who does her storytelling through song, our very own Constance Rudd. And I'm going to spotlight Constance. And she is singing a song called I Knew This Place by Doug Mallet, unless she changed her mind, which would be fine, but I'm assuming we're still with that. So everyone, thank you, Constance, for leading us in our...
I didn't change my mind.
Okay.
But I do want to say, I probably other people besides me noticed in Catherine's, that wonderful piece that she played by Martin Gould, that graphic on the cover was like nice. But what I noticed was the 50-cent price of that sheet music. So I think that sheet music has been played by many wonderful pianists leading up to when Catherine played it this morning. The wonderful singer David Mallet was born in Maine, and he lived he has lived and he's still living most of his life there. And so that created a very strong sense of place in him, within him. And I think that's probably been the single most supporting element in his life. I think he's in his 60s now, and he was in his late 20s or early 30s when he wrote this song, although one of the verses kind of belies that, as you'll hear. I Knew This Place by David Mallet. I knew this place, I knew it well. Every sound and every smell, and every time I walked, I fell for the first 2 years or so. There across the grassy yard, I, a young one, running hard, brown and bruised and battle scarred and lost in sweet illusion. And from my window I can see the fingers of an ancient tree reaching out. It calls to me to climb its surly branches, but all my climbing days are gone, and these tired legs I'm standing on would scarcely dare to leave the spot upon which they are standing. And I remember every word, every voice I ever heard, every frog and every bird. Yes, this is where it starts. My brother's lap, the sighing wind. This is where my life begins. This is where I learned to use my hands and hear my heart. This house is old, it carries on like verses to an old-time song, always changed but never gone. This house can stand the seasons, our lives pass on from door to door. Dust upon the wooden floor like feather rain and thunder roar. We need not know the reason. And as these thoughts come back to me like ships across a friendly sea, like breezes blowing endlessly, like rivers running deep. The day is done, the lights are low, the wheels of life are turning slow, and as these visions turn and go, I lay me down to sleep. I knew this place, I knew it well. Every sound and every smell, and every time I walked, I fell for the first 2 years or so. The day is done, the lights are low, the wheels of life are turning slow, and as these visions turn and go, I lay me down to sleep.
Thank you, Constance. That was lovely. Thank you. Thank you. I put a little applause in the corner. And thank you all for your ongoing generosity for our congregation and for the community around us. We have, during this pandemic, have really made it clear that we show a commitment to all these organizations that we partner with. And I know I get a letter once a month from a different organization thanking us for our generosity. So I thank you all for your generosity and for sharing your gifts in the many ways they show up. So thank you. Thank you. So our reading today is actually a video, right? So I'm in this mindset of storytelling and stories that inspire. And I asked a few members of the congregation for some ideas and support. And then I got one just out of nowhere and it was perfect. And so I created a reading video about the idea of stories, interspersed with stories of stories, closing with more music. And then we'll have a brief homily because I feel like the video tells us a lot. So please enjoy.
The universe is made of stories, not atoms.
Stories have always been a primal form of communication. They are timeless links to ancient traditions, legends, archetypes, myths, and symbols. They connect us to a larger self and universal truths.
At Mount St. Mary's Academy, we said Hail Marys before every class. I tried to believe Mary, Mother of God, would go to bat for me. In college, Buddhism beckoned. In the 60s, I was very active in the NACP, friends with Black ministers. I tried their services, but to me, Jesus was a prophet. I feel a loyalty to Judaism, but not at home in the Reformed Temple. Discovering the Unitarian Church of Newburgh was a Goldilocks moment for my young family. We were under a huge umbrella of acceptance of differences and a commitment to kindness, to social principles, to love.
Stories are about collaboration and connection. They transcend generations, they engage us through emotions, and they connect us to others. Through stories, we share passions, sadness, hardships, and joys. We share meaning and purpose. Stories are the common ground that allows people to communicate, overcoming our defenses and our differences. Stories allow us to understand ourselves better and to find our commonality with others.
My name's Amel. My favorite thing about church is all the people.
And what do you like about all the people?
That they talk about, like Jane talks about George Floyd and God.
Important things.
Mm-hmm.
Stories are how we are wired. Stories take place in the imagination. To the human brain, imagined experiences are processed the same as real experiences. Stories create genuine emotions, presence, and behavioral response.
There was a farmer who no longer attended church. The minister went to visit the farmer, and they sat by the fire, and the minister inquired why the farmer no longer attended. The farmer replied, "Every day I stand in my fields in the midst of nature. I watch the sun rise, the seedlings grow, falling rain, and the birds soaring over me. Can the congregation beat that?" They sat in silence for a moment when an ember leapt from the fire and landed on the hearth. It glowed for a moment and then, separated from the rest of the fire, went out. I am that ember. I can glow by myself, but part of a fire of like-minded sparks, we can all burn more brightly.
Stories are the pathway to engaging our right brain and triggering our imagination. By engaging our imagination, we become participants in the narrative. We can step out of our own shoes, see differently, and increase our empathy for others. Through imagination, we tap into creativity that is the foundation of innovation, self-discovery, and change.
I've been inspired by the house I live in ever since Josh White performed the song in my high school in 1957. Abel Mirapol, who Carol and I knew from UU Miami, wrote the lyrics to the song in 1943, 4 years after he wrote Strange Fruit, arguably the first protest song of the civil rights movement. Since this was 18 years before the original 7 UUA principles were adopted in 1961, the house I live in, which captures the UU spirit, might well have inspired the writers of the 7 principles. What is America to me? A name, a map, the flag I see, a certain word, democracy. What is America to me? The house I live in, a plot of earth, a street, the grocer and the butcher, and the people that I meet, the children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races, all religions, that's America to me. The house I live in, a dream that must come true, a land of food and shelter, and there's work for all to do. The right to earn a living, to make us really free, where everyone is working, that's America to me. The house I live in, the same for black and white. My country, if it's wrong, the chance to set it right. A land where all are equal, the house I want to see, where all will have more freedoms, that's America to me. The loved ones we remember, who fought that we might live, the nameless unsung heroes who gave all that one could give, defenders of our freedom, the women and the men who love the house we live in, but who won't come home again. The house I live in, to cherish and to love, to make a worthy dwelling in the image they dreamed of, a welcome on the doorstep for everyone to see, and a window to the future, that's America to me. The house we live in, where voting is the key that opens up the doorway to our democracy. A vote for every citizen, that's the way it ought to be, where everyone is voting, that's America to me. The house I live in, the goodness everywhere, a land of wealth and beauty, with enough for all to share, a house that we call freedom, the home of liberty, but What especially the people, that's America to me. Yes, especially the people, that's America to me.
So from Milo imagining the universe to the stories and songs shared by UU Catskills members today, I think we can all agree that by listening to or sharing our stories, not only do we learn something new about one another, but we learn something new about ourselves. The nature of sharing and the nature of listening invite us into a healthy vulnerability. A vulnerability that asks us to be fully present to one another, to listen without need to respond or judge, to share our whole selves, especially stories that connect us to our beliefs. Over the past 2 years, we have read countless children's books together, and I think all of us can agree that these stories, while written for children, have helped all of us at any age see the world through a different set of eyes, to perhaps think about something in a completely different way, or to be open to the fact that our experiences, at the very least, are not like those of others. We've done readings and services and in small group ministries that have opened our minds and hearts to the experiences of others, to other points of view, to other ways of knowing and thinking. We've shared truthfully with one another, letting our flaws and our fears and our questions enter the room so we could learn together in community. We've also listened to a variety of music, with and without words, that have inspired us to be our best Unitarian Universalist selves. Music from many cultures, songs we know, songs that were new, songs that made us get up and dance, and songs that brought us to tears. Each piece invited us into a story so that we could learn and grow together. When we share our stories, we share a piece of ourselves. When we listen to the stories of others, we honor their inherent worth and dignity. A few weeks ago, I was on an international Green Faith Zoom meeting, and we broke into pairs 2 different times and shared our stories of why we feel called to do the work of climate and environmental justice. Both times, I was paired with folks from sub-Saharan Africa, 2 different countries, 2 different contexts, 2 different roles in their communities. And although we were in very different time zones, clearly across the world from one another, and maybe seemingly had very little in common, our deep sharing, even through the screen, where we shared our foundational stories, unified us in our vision for a better world. And I found in that process, when I was asked to share my pivotal moment, or what I've called in my own research epiphanic experiences, my mind went through a mini and rapid version of This Is Your Life, and faces and names of people who helped me find my path popped up, and it filled me with warmth and gratitude. So I want to take a moment now and ask you all to play the film strip of your life, on high speed, of course, but see who pops into your mind. What people shepherded you? What moments helped you become who you are? What points in your life helped create the foundation you now stand on. Let's take a minute or so to do that. And if something comes at you, feel free to throw it in the chat. What has your journey been like? Do any of those moments I just asked you to very quickly recall, and I encourage you to do more so later when there's more time, but do any of those moments help you see why you are here in this Unitarian Universalist community? Do they help you see how we, called into community, can learn from one another and can grow together and can welcome a new generation of Unitarian Universalists into our fold? We may be those pivotal people. We probably have been those pivotal people. I'd like to encourage you during our breakout rooms today to share one of your pivotal or epiphanic stories. It could be how you found Unitarian Universalism, what you love about this community or Unitarian Universalism, or why you feel called to do social justice work, whatever you choose. The important thing is to share openly, honestly, and with the interest of giving a little piece of yourself to this beloved community. I know we will find that we have commonalities. But perhaps more impactfully, we will also see how different we are. And again, a different quote from Archbishop Desmond Tutu says, "Differences are not intended to separate, to alienate. We are different precisely in order to realize our need of one another." May we find the time to honor our stories and our journeys. May we share them so we can know one another more deeply. May we listen and learn and see how we all belong to each other. May it be so. Now, I'm assuming we all know this song or have heard it at least. This was one of Rafaela's favorites when we would drive places, or we didn't really drive much because we were New York City folk, but we would sit in the apartment and we would just sing it. And I hope it feels like a wonderful storytelling song. And I invite you all to sing it. Oops, here we go. Come sing a song with me.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me.
I scrolled through and saw you all singing. Thank you for singing. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for sticking out the Zoom Sundays. I'm so pleased with us and us being together in community in this bizarro world. But I hope that you'll stick around too for breakout rooms today. I am doing UU 101 for any visitors or new folks. I'm not sure if we have any of those. And if we don't, then I would like to make breakout rooms where we can find a little time to share our stories. I also am aware of just how beautiful it is outside, so we can keep those rooms short if folks want to get a little sunshine on their skin and get a little vitamin D treatment there. Our closing words come from Ian Huntington Bear. You are in the story of the world. You are the world coming to know itself. May you trust that all you will ever say or do belongs in the story of the world. Amen. Please now join me in our chalice extinguishing words, followed by our unison spoken benediction. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May we listen respectfully and fully, honoring our covenant and this community. May we offer support, time, compassion, humor, and trust. May we be mindful of our intent and impact, taking responsibility for our words and actions. May we endeavor to grow spiritually, ever open to change so that our UU principles may come to life. May it be so. I invite everyone to go on to gallery view so you can see one another. And you can unmute if you'd like while I decide how many rooms we